The A-5C is a premium, rank 6, battle rating 10.0 strike aircraft for the nation of China. It was introduced in the Direct Hit update in September of 2021. I purchased this aircraft on an impulse a couple days ago because I have almost none of the Chinese vehicles researched and I really want that J8B that people have been playing on the dev server. Also, frankly, I didn't want to play any of the lower tier aircraft that China has because I've already played just about all of them in other nations. I really just wanted to start working towards top tier China for when the time comes that more advanced Chinese manufactured fighters appear in game. Just like the Q5 group of fighters, the A-5C is based on the Russian MiG-19, though from the front, it doesn't really look like it. You begin to notice the similarities when looking at the aircraft from a side view, the silhouette from below and above, and especially when viewing the aircraft from behind. So being a strike aircraft, the A-5C gets a fair amount of bombs and rockets, as well as some very strong air-to-air missiles for 10.0 and 2 guns. You have two 23mm Type 23 2K cannons that I honestly don't really like very much. Seems like the velocity is pretty low, and the rate of fire is pretty low as well. You have the option of carrying two AIM-9P missiles, which if I remember correctly is just the export version of the AIM-9J, or you can carry two Matcher R550 Magic 1s, which is what I mainly choose to carry. They are very strong missiles, especially at 10.0. I find them similar to the R60s, except with a bit more range and maybe a bit less susceptible to flares. They are mainly what I get my kills with. I don't ever use the rockets just because I don't ever play ground RB, but I have been taking out the bombs sometimes in air RB for those sweet research points from the bases. The A-5C shares some similar flight characteristics as the MiG-19 as well, mainly being its phenomenal energy retention, especially vertically. Though not as prominent as the MiG-19, the energy retention is still fantastic and helps out big time in clutch situations. Possessing this fantastic energy retention, you do however need to be careful not to overshoot your enemies as it's quite easy to do so. Also like the MiG-19, when you're at higher speeds, particularly when you approach and exceed Mach 1, this thing turns into a complete brick. You don't really have much authority over the aircraft's direction at those high speeds, however if you drop that speed a bit, this thing turns very nicely. In fact, it turns better than the majority of the opponents that you will see, all while maintaining a solid amount of energy while your opponent loses all of their speed in their first or second turn. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention, this thing used to get an air spawn like a lot of other strike aircraft, but that ability was removed in an update not long ago. Luckily, this aircraft is still very powerful and never really needed an air spawn in the first place. Even if you do want to hit bases, it's still very easy to do so, then return to base to get more bombs or start going for enemy aircraft. Right now, I'm using the A-5C to grind out the Chinese aircraft until I get to the higher tiers, so I take 4 750-pound bombs and 2 magics to hit the enemies with after I drop the bombs on a strategic base. It seems to work pretty well, because as soon as I get my bombs off, I turn around and I'm usually adjacent or sometimes even behind the mass of enemy players. Anyway, I do have one match I want to show you. It's nothing crazy, but it is a good example of how I fly the A-5C, and there's one good dogfight at the end. I know I'm kind of starting in the middle of this match, but all I've done so far is bomb a base and then headed towards the furball. So, I send a missile off at this F-4C, which is going to be my first kill, and then I start looking behind me to see what's out there, make sure I'm not getting any missiles sent at me, and then I start turning towards the enemies again. One thing I feel I've been doing wrong with this aircraft is I've been keeping my afterburner going pretty much the whole time. And when you do that, you're still just going to maintain that super high speed, and it's going to be really hard to get your aircraft turning, which I feel sometimes robs me of the opportunity for some kills. But this match was only a few games into owning the A-5C, so I was still definitely getting a feel for it. Basically all I was doing here was trying to keep it in the vertical as much as possible because I know the enemies, if they follow, they're not going to be able to maintain that. And that's something I really like to do in this and the MiG-19 because it really has a very high success rate as long as you're not getting missiles from somewhere else. So now I set my sights on this Mirage, gonna try and get a gun kill on him. But unfortunately I whiffed my shots. Like I said, I'm not very good at aiming these guns. Follow him through this turn, hoping he's going to keep chasing the other A5 on my team. But unfortunately he pitches down, and I'm not going to follow that because that's a Mirage and those things turn on a dime, and I would for sure overshoot that. Noticed an F8U coming towards me. I start getting out of the way of him, but I start lagging and desyncing all over the place. But luckily that doesn't last very long. Normally that happens, it just goes out for like a minute or two, and then I just crash into the ground with no control. Really need to buy a new router, but I am lazy and don't want to spend that money. Anyway, as you just saw, the F-5C put himself right in front of my guns, and that's going to give me my second kill. Look behind me and notice the Mirage 3 is on my tail, and I'm going to pull away from him relatively quickly because Mirage bleeds a whole lot of speed when it turns, and I do not. He noticed me pulling away, so he turns off, and then I pitch up to go back and try and secure this kill. But instead, I decided to go after the Jaguar because it seems like an easier target. Would have fired a missile if I had any left, but I'm all out. So I throttle back a bit just so I don't go too fast and I still have authority over my guns. Get a crit. I take some pretty poorly placed shots. He doesn't go down immediately like I hoped. But as I'm watching him hoping he's going to go down, I notice a phantom on my tail. Notice he's closing the distance on me, so I start turning, hoping he's going to overshoot. Unfortunately, I take my turns a little too wide, so I'm not going to get my guns on target fast enough, and he's going to pull away. Take a few shots here, just hoping I can get some long range shots off, but like I said, I'm terrible with these guns. But then this phantom starts turning with me, which is a huge mistake. I guess he assumed I probably still had some missiles, which I didn't. So he starts positioning himself basically right in front of my guns. And then he makes a huge mistake of straightening out, and I'm going to send some shots off, and that's going to be my third kill of the game. And then lucky for me, I notice the Jaguar, I believe it's the same Jaguar from earlier, very low and very slow because he's damaged. Just trying to make sure I don't get a bunch of speed so I can't aim my guns. It doesn't matter anyway because I suck at aiming these guns anyway, as you're about to see again. Start taking some shots off, whiffing all of them. And then I get a hit, which sets him on fire, and that's going to be my fourth kill. So after that, all that's left is a Mirage, and I'm going to return to base to get more missiles, get more bombs, and maybe hit a base, and then try and find the last guy after I hit that base. But ended up finding the Mirage before I could get to the base, so I drop off all my bombs and then start the fight. Basically, all I have to do here is take it into the vertical and keep it in the vertical, and then it should be an easy fight. So I roll out of the way of the Mirage. He gets on my tail, but he's a Mirage. He's going to lose all that speed very quickly as soon as he starts turning. And I hold all my speed very well. I put it down at a dive, and I take a look at him, and I'm pulling away from him very quickly. Looks like he fired a missile off out of desperation, but that's not going to come anywhere near me. And I'm just going to keep going up and down, because that's exactly where this plane shines. Like I was saying before, the only time this thing could actually get on my tail and maintain that position is the first and second turn. Other than that, I'm going to have the upper hand the whole time. As we keep going, he's just going to keep losing more and more speed, and I'm going to maintain this sweet spot of around 500 to 800 kilometers an hour. And this loop right here is going to be the last one because the Mirage has completely bled all of its speed and has basically just stalled out and is falling out of the sky at this point. So I cut my throttle a bit and then kind of keep it up a bit, trying to keep my speed low so I can maintain on his tail. It's going to take him a second to get all that speed back, so I'm just going to take it nice and easy, get a magic warmed up, send it off, and that's going to be my last kill, which also wins us the match. So a 5-kill game in the A-5C, not too bad. So to wrap things up, in my opinion, I believe the A-5C is a fantastic vehicle for grinding out the Chinese tech tree. Though, if you are a beginner watching this and just want to buy a jet, you're not going to have a good time in this aircraft, or any jet for that matter, because there's a huge learning curve coming from props to jets. Planning on making a video on that topic pretty soon. However, if you have jet combat experience already and feel somewhat comfortable with it, this is not a bad option as a premium. It's quite powerful in the right hands. Anyway, thanks for watching this video. Sorry it took so long to get out. I've had a crazy week and I have had zero extra time on top of my already having just a stressful week in general. So if you like what you see here, consider subscribing. I post once or twice a week as much as I can, honestly, which is what I have time for. Anyway, let me know what you think of the A-5C. Do you think it's a good premium? Let me know in the comments below. And on that, have a nice day. I will see you next time. Peace.